Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome dear learners. This is a video for the subject of education for the course of Bachelor's in Education, and the paper is Child Development and Learning. This is the topic which is from Teaching as a Profession and Professional Ethics of Teachers, and in this lecture we are going to cover professional ethics and development of professional identity of teachers. This video is recorded by Professor Jasim Ahmed. The course coordinator for this video is Dr. Aerum Khan from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. She is also the academic expert or reviewer for this video. The presenter or subject matter expert is Professor Jasim Ahmed from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. This video is produced under the project DTH Swayam Prabha channels of MHRD, New Delhi.
Hello dear learners, I am Professor Jasim Ahmed from IAAC Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today we are going to discuss on the topic professional ethics and development of professional identity of teachers. Under this discussion, we will try to define professional ethics of teachers. We will also try to describe the professional ethics of teachers, and will try to explain the meaning and development of professional identity of teachers. And finally, we will discuss the role of teacher educators in the development of professional ethics and professional identity of teachers. So friends, first of all, talk about the professional ethics of teachers, what they are. So education is a process of exhalation of personality and having meaningful experiences of all life activities. Both these prime tasks cannot be accomplished unless the learners understand the concept of self and identity and work on them properly. Unawareness or incorrect understanding of these concepts may lead to improper planning and faulty personality development of an individual. In the era of knowledge society, where each individual and society is supposed to construct their own knowledge, the role and responsibilities of teachers are manifold. They are supposed to carry out dual responsibilities. One, to develop their own professional identity as teachers, and to let their students understand and develop their own self and identity as a person, as a member of the society, as a citizen of a nation, and as professionals in a professional training institute. Let us first talk about professional ethics of teachers and try to understand why we need code of ethics for teachers. So friends, the code of ethics for teachers is designed to protect the rights of the students, parents, and the profession itself. It is important that teachers understand that when they get a teaching position, they are agreeing to follow the code of ethics. You as a teacher need to protect your students' safety and not believe that this is someone else's job. It is your job. A professional code of ethics outlines teachers' main responsibilities to their students and defines their role in students' lives. Above all, teachers must demonstrate integrity, impartiality, and ethical behavior in the classroom and in their conduct with parents and co-workers. On the one hand, ethics are an extension of a person's conscience and moral behavior, and therefore are learned through personal experiences and influences. However, research by foremost psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg found that ethics can be taught simply through instruction. So friends, let's talk about the Code of Professional Ethics of Teachers as given by NCTE, that is National Council of Teacher Education. Each country develops its own code of ethics for school teachers as well as university or higher teachers in working in higher education. NCTE developed Code of Professional Ethics for Teachers. The code provides a framework of principles that would guide teachers in discharging their obligations towards students, parents, and other stakeholders. The code is implemented in collaboration with the associations and Federation of School Teachers. So first of all, try to see what are the obligations of teachers towards students. So teachers must treat all students with love and affection. Teachers also should respect the values of being just and impartial to all students irrespective of their caste, creed, religion, sex, economic status, disability, language, and place of birth. Teachers should also facilitate students' physical, social, intellectual, emotional, and moral development of the learners. We as a teacher must respect basic human dignity of the child in all aspects of school life, and we should also make planned and systematic efforts to facilitate the child to actualize his or her potential and talent. Teachers must transact the curriculum in conformity with the values enshrined in the Constitution of India. They must adapt their teaching to the individual needs of students. They should maintain the confidentiality of the information concerning students and dispenses each such information only to those who are legitimately entitled to it. We must refrain from subjecting any child to fear, trauma, anxiety, physical punishment, sexual abuse, and mental and emotional harassment. We should also keep a dignified demeanor commensurate with the expectations from a teacher as a role model. Now let's talk about the obligations of teachers towards parents, community, and society. So teachers must establish a relationship of trust with parents and guardians in the interest of all-round development of the learners. We as teachers must desist from doing anything which is derogatory to the respect of the child or his or her parents or guardians. We should also strive to develop respect for the composite culture of India among the students. We must keep the country uppermost in mind, refrains from taking part in such activities as may spread feelings, hatred, or enmity among different communities, religious or linguistic groups. Let's see the obligations of teachers towards profession and colleagues. So teachers must strive for their continuous professional development. They must create a culture that encourages purposeful collaboration and dialogue among colleagues and stakeholders. They must they must take pride in the teaching profession and treat other members of the profession with respect and dignity. Teachers must refrain from engaging themselves in private tuition or private teaching activity. We should also refrain ourselves from accepting any gift or favor that might impair or appear to influence professional decision or action. Teachers should refrain from making substantiated allegations against colleagues or higher authorities. They should also avoid making derogatory statements about colleagues, especially in the presence of students, other teachers, and officials or parents. We should also respect the professional standing and opinion of our colleague. We as teachers must maintain confidentiality of information concerning colleagues and dispense such information only when authorized to do so. So friends, now come to another important topic, which is about teaching at the heart of all professions. As we know, teaching creates all other professions. A teacher is said to be a candle that burns itself to light up the life of others. They should develop ethical values among themselves so that the same values can be developed among our students, among our new generation. Teachers are not only guides and guardians in schools, but second parents as well. According to Epstein, identity represents the process by which the person seeks to integrate his various statuses and roles, as well as his diverse experiences, into a coherent image of self. Wenger defines identity as what someone knows, what is foreign to him, what he chooses to know, how he knows it, with whom he interacts in knowledge sharing activity, and his willingness and capacity to engage in boundary interactions. He identifies identity as engagement in the world, and he advocates that people have multiple sources of identity. He reaffirmed affiliation to an organization, that is teacher of a school, doctor in a hospital, clerk in an office. They are not sufficient to constitute identity. It is the experiences of the professionals as to how they engage themselves in learning and knowledge creation. That is, to be able to interact with all kinds of situations and people in the system. Participation in the professional activities constitute identity construction of an individual, of a professional. It includes dimensions of mutual engagement, a joint enterprise, and a shared repertoire. According to Millia, becoming of professional relies on the duality of two processes. Number one is the kind of qualities of interactions and activities at the workplace, and number two is the individual's ontogenic development, that is, personal goals that determine how and why the individual has chosen to engage in a particular profession. People may choose some profession for various reasons, like for social prestige, for salary, for getting a job, for social service, for getting engaged, etc. etc. The personal goals shape the professional identity of that particular person. Teachers' professional identity may be viewed with sociological as well as cognitive psychological perspective. By sociological perspective, we mean the development of identity through interaction with other people. Because of this interaction, people express their professional identity in their perception of who they are and who they want to become. This is their cognitive psychological perspective. Now, let's discuss about personal and social identity. Mead suggested a distinction between social and personal identity of an individual. According to Mead, sociological concept of the self is me, and the personal component of the self is I. Mead's idea suggests that significance of environment in the development of self and identity of an individual is very important. According to Deschamps and DeVos, personal identity is what makes you similar to yourself and different from others. The others determine the central role of social aspects of the development of personal identity of an individual. Unless we understand the social fabric, social values, and our socio-cultural aspects, we cannot differentiate between me, the social self, and I, the personal self. Identifying these two selves is the most important key in the development of unique personality of an individual. Batchfield and Turner's social identity theory is the most influential theory in this regard, which is based on social psychological perspective of the individual. Through social interaction, empirical experiences, and several other modes of getting and exchanging information and knowledge construction, people develop personal identity, role identity, and social identity. The personal identity refers to the attitude and behavior of the individuals that they apply to themselves. The role identity of a person includes the roles and functions that the individual is supposed to perform. For example, the role of a doctor is to treat the patient. Role of a teacher is to teach students. Role of a sweeper is to clean the areas they are supposed to. The social identity may be defined as a person's identification with social group. All these identities influences one another, seems differ in their basis, but they operate simultaneously in different situations. For instance, professor of a university is part of a specific university, which is his social identity, functions as a teacher within that university, which is his role identity, and fulfills this role in his or her own way. This is his or her personal identity. So identity can be viewed as a product as well as a process. It is reflected as a product at a specific time and in a specific situation. Our identities are continuously influenced by some external and internal influences, and hence acts as a process of further identity formation. Identity may not be distinctly individualized and unchangeable. We may strive to maintain our habits, values, attitudes, and routines, that is identity, but are not immune to outside influences. It goes on building and rebuilding, constructing and reconstructing throughout our life. Now let's talk about profession and the professional identity. Profession is any type of work which requires specialized skills to perform and hence needs special preparation, training, and skill development. For all professions, aspirants need to undergo training and complete a program or course. A person who practices any profession is considered to be the professional in that particular area. So professionals are approved by the professional organization as a registered practitioner with the right to exercise autonomous professional judgment. Each profession has its own theoretical framework, required skills, ethics, and morality which provide the profession its identity. This professional identity is expected to be reinforced by the existence of a regulatory body like NCTE or AICTE. Each profession has its own identity which differentiate them from one another and between professionals and non-professionals. Identity of an individual develops and exists in the context of his social and cultural role. Every one of us has more than one identity and play more than one role in our life. For example, a person plays the role of a father, role of the husband, role of a son, and so on. Every individual, along with the playing of these social roles, he or she is also engaged in some or the other economic affairs or services like teaching, doctoring, engineering, advocacy, carpentry, sweeping, etc. The role of the teacher is different from the role of other professionals. Similarly, the identities of teachers differ from persons belonging to other professions. Identity is formed as a result of interactions with the people, language, and other aspects of society or organization or profession itself. In course of interaction, the external references, regulations, and values of social groups or formalized way of carrying out work are internalized and become personally accepted. The formed identity of a professional, which is shared by others in the same profession or in the same role, in turn becomes the basis for his or her future interactions. Professionals are obliged legally or by the governing authorities of the professional organization or regulatory bodies to provide a reasonable standard of services to their clients. Professional identity development is aligned with desired attributes of the professionals in practice. It is the self of the individual trainee that is developed during the professional training to perform competently and legitimately with the commitment in the context of the profession. The process continues over the course of the individual's career and adds on to the development of professional identity of the individual. Professional education and training simply develop prerequisite of becoming the worker in that particular profession. So friends, let's talk about teachers' professional identity, the focal point of our discussion in this particular presentation. So professional identity of teachers is instrumental in making them motivated, committed, efficient, dedicated, successful, and overall a good teacher. The professional identity of teachers has been a matter of debate since long time. It is not a single variable and a characteristic which can be transferred or developed in a teacher through direct training. It is an evolutionary process that draws upon the interpretation and reinterpretation of experiences. It is not global in its character. Instead, it depends on the environment or context or local particularities to which teachers are responding. All teachers as a group of professionals do not reflect homogeneously due to several factors. They differ considerably owing to the varied conditions in which they work, resulting into varied professional identity. Professional identity developed among the teachers, the perception and sense of comradeship, solidarity, and professional connection and recognition. It is a function of teachers' efforts to define themselves and others. Let's talk about now indicators of teachers' professional identity through which you can measure the professional identity of a particular teacher. You can observe what level of professional identity can be observed in a particular teacher or group of teachers. So professional identity of teachers is perceived to be shaped by the interaction between teachers as a person and context in which they live and work. According to Olsen, influences from many internal and external sources shape teachers' perceptions of themselves as teachers, resulting into the development of their identity as teachers. Continued interactions develop the sense of professional identity of teachers, which are manifested in the form of job satisfaction, professional commitment, self-efficacy, and motivation, the foundation of the teacher's professional identity. Professional identity of an individual teacher is not entirely unique. As a member of the group, there is a certain amount of uniformity in the specific values, beliefs, and life skills which make the teachers possessing common professional identity of teachers along with their personal identity. Hence, in an individual teacher, there will be two identities. One is his personal identity and other is his professional identity as teachers. In other words, teachers to a certain extent may have a shared identity. Good teachers must be aware about this and they should reflect this through their thought, through their actions and practices in their day-to-day functions. One teacher differs from other teacher in terms of the level of motivation, level of commitment towards teaching and learning, job satisfaction and self-efficacy. We should not view professional identity as attributable to all teachers in the same quantum or level. It varies from teacher to teacher. We may develop different identity profiles of teachers on these relevant indicators. Now, let's talk about the influential context developing teachers' professional identity. And in the series, the first one is personal factors. The personal factors of trainee teachers constitute the central ingredients of professional identity formation. With what intention the trainees have joined the pre-service teacher education program is very important factor. Some join it, that is this profession of teaching, as a pre-service teacher to really become a teacher as this is his or her preferred profession to pursue and practice. Others may join for the sake of just to save time or because of some other externally motivating factors. Those who really want to become teachers, as he or she likes this profession and enjoy teaching, will develop good reactions and good relation with good teachers and devote their energy to act effectively for the sake of students' progress, thereby developing different indicators of professional identity of teachers. Let's talk about pre-service teachers training and how pre-service teachers training help in the development of professional identity of teachers. As we know, pre-service teachers training, which is PSTT, plays the most important role in setting the tone for development of professional identity of teachers, especially the school internship program, which acts as the heart and soul of the teacher preparation program. What level of professional identity among the trainees is going to develop depends upon the teacher educators giving training to these trainees and school teachers under whose mentorship they are doing teaching practice. Now let's talk about a school internship program. The school in which the teacher trainees are posted for school observation and teaching practices play the crucial role in developing the professional identity of teachers among them. Schools having all the necessary academic facilities Good teaching learning environment and good teachers provide fertile ground to observe, reflect, imbibe, and develop in them the ideals of a good teacher and becoming of an effective, efficient, dedicated teachers having sound teachers' professional identity. Conduction of a school internship program in schools devoid of these facilities cannot support the attainment of goals of this process. This is the major concern and the most important difficulty in providing the trainees the ideal school for teaching practice. In the absence of such schools, we cannot provide proper teaching learning ground, good mentors at schools, and hence it becomes difficult to trigger sound teachers' professional identity in the pupil teachers. Let's talk about professional identity through in-service teachers training. During in-service teacher training, participants are updated with new developments in the area of teacher education. It helps the teachers in making them refresh for the professional work and add on their professional commitment and professional skills. In addition to learning the prerequisite knowledge and skills, teachers need to be able to adequately integrate their learning and internalize the values and norms of practice to think, speak, and act like the teaching professionals. During pre-service teacher training program, for the transformation of people teachers' personality to take place more successfully, the trainees are required to be supported to understand their developing identities, in making sense of their experiences, to relate to who they are and who they might become as the professionals. When explicit support system for the development of professional identity of teachers is not designed or provided to the trainee teachers, the trainees may inadvertently be influenced by the informal or hidden curriculum that can run counter to the desired outcomes of professional education. Let's talk about development of teachers' professional identity through problem-based learning, that is PBL. Problem-based learning was first introduced in medical education at McMaster University, Hamilton, Canada, to better train and equip trainees for the transformation from the pre-clinical to clinical phase of their education, with an objective to prepare them more effectively for professional practice. Since then, PBL has been used in many other professions to train the professionals, including teacher education. In this approach, problem triggers are placed in the professional practice situation. Small groups of people teachers are put to work on the problem. They analyze the problem, identify learning issues that are helpful for developing an adequate explanation for the problem, conduct research, and finally draw findings and conclusions. Hence, in place of traditional method of learning, the theory followed by solving problem based on it, people teachers are first presented the problem to diagnose and solve. In this way, content is learned in a situated manner. The role of the teacher educator is to provide guidance for the pupil teacher's learning process of construction and acquiring knowledge. Empirical studies on problem-based learning have shown increased self-efficacy in the role of the profession, increase in knowledge and understanding about the professional practice such as norms, roles, obligations, and responsibilities, etc. Positive change in attitude and behavior of the learners. PBL helps people teachers learn professionalism that contributes to their professional identity development. For example, a student teacher internship. Let's talk about the factors contributing professional identity formation. From the discussion that we have made, it may be comprehended that professional identity of teachers is the self that has been developed with the commitment to perform competently and legitimately in the teaching profession. Neither it can be completely developed during training, nor it is in a time-bound process. Instead, has its development continued over the course of individual's career. Some are the very important factors, and these are basically five very important factors of which contribute the professional identity formation, which we are going to discuss in the succeeding slides. These 5 factors may be referred to as the professional identity 5-factor scale. First one is knowledge about professional practices. The professionals in any area, including teaching, should have sound knowledge and understanding of the discipline along with the capacity to achieve the standards and comply with the regulations formulated by the concerned professional bodies. They should have clear idea about their typical roles and responsibilities and what they are accountable for. They require following and reflecting the values and ethics of the profession and should be able to take reasonable professional decisions. The trainees are required to be equipped with adequate knowledge, understanding, and skills about the professional practices before they enter into. The next is having the professional as a role model. The trainees should have role models to whom they would follow and who demonstrate in concrete ways how theory and practice are integrated. The role models make them familiar with profession-related issues. Role models' lifestyles, tracings, and all other personality variables are absorbed by the trainees. In the ongoing classroom training, the feedback and critique from the role models help to shape trainees' thinking and reasoning abilities. The third one is experience with the profession. Internship experiences with the profession enable trainees to learn about the professional practices and the role of the professionals. It makes them understand what it means to act as a professional in practice. Experiences give them the opportunity to apply what they have learned in theory classes after completion of the training. When they join as a real professional, the experiences gained thereafter goes on building their professional identity throughout their life. That is their professional life. It build and rebuild, construct and reconstruct, and the process went on. The fourth one is professional self-efficacy. Professional self-efficacy also play the crucial role in the development of professional identity of the professionals. Self-efficacy is concerned with judgments of how well one can execute courses of action required to deal with prospective situations. This is the personal belief about one's ability to deal with a particular situation related to the profession. Research in education has found that these personal beliefs influence students' decisions to put in effort and persevere longer to successfully complete tasks. Research studies have also shown that self-efficacy contributes to learners' choice of activities, investment of effort, level of persistence, and achievement. For developing professional self-efficacy, people teachers should be put in such situations which develop their personal belief in themselves and make them more confident in performing teaching learning related tasks and handling class and school related assignments. The school internship program should provide all these opportunities to the people teachers and should be properly and regularly supervised and guided by their supervisors, subject teachers, and mentors. Students learn through feedback and critique by peers and their tutors or facilitators. Now, the fifth one is preference for a particular profession. This is the most important, most influential, and highest contributing factor to professional identity. This measures the strength of professional identity of a professional. This attribute consists of the individual's focus to direct his attention, direct his energy and commitment to become a practitioner in a particular profession. It also influences the efforts of the professional to upgrade themselves and learn new skills to perform relatively more efficiently and effectively. Now let's talk about the teacher educator's role in developing professional identity among teacher trainees. Teacher educators play a key role in providing the professional experiences to the people teachers and their professional values and ethics. The purpose of teacher education is to align the trainees with the professional values and ethics that are important in the profession. As the purpose of teacher education is to enable teacher trainees so that they become new practitioners committed to perform competently. It has to enrich their educational experiences beyond the learning of a body of knowledge and skills. Teacher education will have to shape how the individual trainees relate to the profession. The trainees begin to interpret educational issues from the perspective of the field, interact in a professionally appropriate manner with students, colleagues, and all other stakeholders of education, and keep update on the development in the area of school education and the concerned subject areas and its pedagogy. Let's talk about ways to understand and develop the self of the teacher trainees. The best way to approach and know the self is to question and communicate with one's own self. In order to understand the real self, the individual must ask questions to himself, and the responses he gets from his inner voice will represent his self. Of course, the responses will vary time to time and situation to situation, and in the process, the individual would understand his real self and create his ideal self. A person is the best judge of himself, and by questioning himself, he knows his strengths and weaknesses. This also helps in cleaning up the heart through hard struggles in opposing external forces, the forces which drag the individual towards the wrong path. Through this process, an individual is able to keep himself within the norms of morality. The process of edification is a process of increasing self-transparency, of making an individual increasingly transparent to oneself. In a beautiful image, Soren Kierkegaard writes, "Purity of heart is a figure of speech that compares the heart to the sea. The depth of the sea determines its purity, and its purity determines its transparency." At other place, he writes, "Life must be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. We must try to analyze and understand what we are and what we want to be on a realistic basis." The first and the foremost question regarding the self is how to know one's self. For this, an individual needs to know his personality characteristics critically and different aspects concerning to it. Whether your style is social, spiritual, personal, ruling type, getting type, avoiding type, or socially useful type. And what are your aspects? Submissive, sarcastic, persistent, impatient, forceful, generous, cheerful, sensitive, optimistic, and so on. In these processes, teachers, parents, and even peers can help the individual, for it is possible for an individual to recognize alone, and timely recognition can rescue one from damage, ruin, or neurosis. The second implication comes from the very premise of the first question. Adoption of constructive or destructive lifestyle relies on the kinds of treatment given by parents, teachers, or any concerned. Feeling of inferiority is an inevitable element in the process of construction of self. So, providing positive or optimistic background will lead to upward or constructive lifestyle, and discouragement, criticism, and restriction will lead to striving for personal superiority, and in turn assuming of downward or destructive lifestyle resulting in neurosis. Now let's summarize what we discussed today. The thorough study of all theories and concepts ground on two key aspects of self, that is self-concept and self-esteem. Perhaps former is the basis for all motivated behavior. It is the self-concept that gives rise to the possible selves, and it is the possible selves that create motivation for behavior. Since self is not an innate entity, it requires some efforts to construct, and in this process, along with the individual, others surrounding him are solicited to contribute, provide him with the scope of interaction with the environment and reflecting on the interaction. Through this interaction, one can create congruence between his real and ideal self. This is a long and continuous process that requires freedom, cooperation, and coordination, unconditional positive regards, and genuineness from both the individual and society. Since individual is caretaker of all possibilities, he should set his goals smartly. Here, smart means being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, and should analyze them time to time and modify and synthesize if required. It is an established fact that people who has good self-esteem have a clear differentiated self-concept. When people know themselves, they can maximize outcomes because they know what they can and cannot. Through this process, the teacher trainees, the pupil teachers can develop their professional ethics and professional identity to become a dedicated teacher in the profession of teaching. So friends, now these are the list of references which I have consulted during the preparation of this particular presentation to deliver among with you all. And lastly, there is one web references from where I have also taken some content for discussion deliberation. With this, I thank you all. Wish you all the best and wish you to interact with you on some other day with some other topic. Thank you so much.
Dear students, you are watching a video from the topic of teaching as a profession and professional ethics of teachers. This lecture was covering professional ethics and development of professional identity of teachers. This video lecture was recorded by faculty at home during the national lockdown period for COVID-19 pandemic using minimal technical resources. Technical errors, if any, are unintentional and may please be ignored. For any queries with regard to this lecture or broadcast, kindly send your email to techsupport@dth.ac.in. Thank you so much.